Hey guys, today's video is going to be part 3 of my bumper and tire carrier build for my Spooky Jeep. If you're new here, welcome to the channel and don't forget to subscribe. So I've been working on this build for a few weeks now. If you haven't seen part 1 or part 2, you can go ahead and check it out now, or you can wait till the end of this video and I'll put links at the end screen of this video. Now where I left off on my last video is I was cutting the old bumper to fit up here to kind of fill in this gap between the bumper and the back of the XJ. And as I stated in that video, I'm pretty sure I screwed it up. I got in a hurry, wasn't taking my time, and that idea is completely scrapped. I was still planning on trying to save it, but I wasn't sure if it was going to work. Today I actually went to my local steel yard to get some more metal for another project, and I dug through the remnants pile, and I found the perfect piece to fit exactly where I needed to go. It just needed a little bit of trimming on the back end, and I went ahead and notched the corners here, and I think that this piece will work great. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that tacked in place. I'm extremely happy that I came across this. It fits perfect, and I think it's going to look great. I'm going to go ahead and get this tacked in place, and then I'm going to move on to the next step to make this bumper look better. So the final thing I'm wanting to do to this bumper is add some end caps. So I'm going to go ahead and cap off the ends of my 2x4" tubing here, but it's going to serve a dual purpose. One, it's going to cap off so that no water or mud or moisture can get in, but also if I decide to in the future, I can use my bumper as an air tank. Now I know that there will have to be more work done to this if I do decide to use it as an air tank, but for the time being, I'm not too worried about that. It's just an option in the future. Now, not only am I wanting to cap these off, I think I'm going to go ahead and notch the corners in just a smidge, and I think that that'll help it look a lot better. So first things first, I need to figure out how I'm going to notch it. So in order to figure out how I want my angle right here, I'm going to go ahead and measure from my spindle to my end cap here and make sure that I will have clearance. So I'm looking at about 1 inch and 7/8 to the end there. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to go ahead and measure off the end here and come in 1 1/4 inches. I'm going to go ahead and transfer down to the center of my 2x4" tubing. And then that will give me my angle that I need to be at. Ooh, right there. Sweet. I want to do the other side. I'm not going to lie, it's kind of hard for me to concentrate right now. My wife is cooking and it smells amazing in my garage. And all I can think about is food right now. So bear with me if I stutter a little bit. So next thing, I'm going to come down and measure just shy of my 2-inch mark. Now I'm going to do is transfer my lines over, try to make it as straight an angle as possible, and cut it out. So now that my end caps are cut, I'm going to go ahead and cap it off with some of this strap here. I'm going to cut 2 pieces at 4 inches each, one for either end. I think 4 inches should fit. If it does not, I'll have enough room to trim it in place. What I'm actually going to do is start at the bottom of the bumper, which is the top here, kind of tack it in place, and then fold it down by massaging it a little bit with a hammer. And then go ahead and finish welding it all in place and call it good. I'm really excited to get this done. You guys have no idea. So I'm pretty much all set. I just have some finish welding to do, some grinding. Gonna round some edges, so I'm gonna hop on all that and then we'll see how it looks on the Jeep. Now that my bumper portion is pretty much done, it's time for me to figure out where I want my tire carrier to sit. I went ahead and cut myself out a 35-inch template. That way, if I do decide to upgrade from 33s to 35s, I know that it'll fit, and I'm going to base everything off of these dimensions. So I've been thinking a lot about it, and I know that I don't want to cover up my taillight too much, but a little bit isn't going to hurt anything. So I figure mounting it right about here is probably going to work out okay. It is going to cut into my taillight just a little bit, but that's not going to be an issue. And it is going to be offset to one side rather than centered. I know most people like to center it, but because I'm going to be doing a dual swing out, I would like it to be offset to one side, and that way I can mount other things on this side. Now that I know around about where my tire is going to sit, it's kind of changing the idea that I had for my tire carrier, and I am actually going to do like a 75-25 split instead of a 50-50 right down the center. So the arm with the tire carrier is just going to be a little bit longer, and then I'll have my arm over here, which is going to carry jerry cans and an ammo can, and it's going to be shorter. So I know that that section there needs to be 34 inches long, and this section here needs to be 21 3/8 long, roughly, and that gives me a 1/2 inch gap in between there. Now, just to make the math easy, I'm going to go ahead and bring this over just a little bit and call it an even 21. So that's going to be to the center line of this rounded edge here. Now, realistically, I need to go a little bit longer than that because I do need it to wrap around this a little bit. But I have a plan for that, and let me show you guys real quick. So what I'm actually going to do is go ahead and measure to my 34 inches and mark it. Then I know I can set the rounded edge of my hinge right up against it and centered. And then I can go ahead and draw around it. And I know that that's where I need to cut out. So to make things a little bit easier on me, what I'm actually going to do is use a hole saw to cut this out. And that'll give me my rounded edge for the next piece that I need to cut at 21 inches. Anyway, dinner's done. Smells magnificent. Hopefully it tastes good. I'm just kidding. It always tastes good. I'm going to go in and eat, and then I'll finish cutting this out. Now, it's not perfect. I am going to have some cleaning up to do, but it is pretty close. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. And now all I need to do is make my straight cut at the other end. So I got my two pieces cut. I feel like this one might be a little bit short, but that's all right. But after I set all this down, I was thinking about how I want my tire to sit right here. And it's going to sit right about centered. I'm looking at it, trying to decide what I want to do. But my biggest problem right now is I don't have enough clearance. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to make some adjustments. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it on the Jeep side or try to relocate my mounting nuts on the bumper itself. Either way it goes, it's not good. But what I'm going to do for right now, for temporary, is I'm going to go ahead and pull this trim piece off. That way I can go ahead and continue with my build. And then I'll figure out what I want to do down the road. Now I have some shackle relocation brackets that are going to be going in there. Are going to be using the same mounting location. And I also have rear frame stiffeners that I ordered from Barnes 4-wheel drive recently. And all that's going to go in there. So until I do all of that, I'm just going to go ahead and take this trim off, store it, and then put it back on when I have the time. So I'm going to take this off of here and then go ahead and proceed to figure out where my tire is going to sit. So to give myself more clearance to the bottom of my hinge here, I went ahead and spaced this out just over 1/4 inch. All I did was take a couple of my 1/4 inch gussets and my square here and just set it all in place, and I'm going to go ahead and tack it the way it is. It should give me just enough clearance on the bottom to be able to weld down there, just as long as I be extra careful and take my time on the bottom. So I've got my swing arms tacked to my hinges, and now it's time to decide where my tire mount is going to sit on this arm here. Now what I was originally planning on doing is having it centered on this arm, and I think I'm going to stick with that. And I'm thinking I want to be 17 inches off the top of the bumper here to the center of my tire mount, which should leave plenty of room for my 33s. And if I decide to go up to 35s, even 37s, it should give me plenty of clearance here for my recovery points and my hitch. But you never know. So doing this, I am going to allow for future growth if I want. Now I am going to go ahead and take this over to the bench and finish building my structure on the bench and then bring it out here again and see how it fits. So let me show you guys real quick what I'm thinking. Now I know I want my center of rim centered on my swing arm here, as well as I want my center of rim 17 inches above the top of the bumper. So what I'm thinking is I'm wanting to come up just like so, and then I want the extension from my rim to sit on top. And that way it'll put center of rim at 17 inches high. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to go ahead and cut a piece at 14 inches long. Where I get 14 inches is I want it to be 17 inches from the bumper. So I'm going to subtract my 2 inches for this square tubing here. And then I'm going to subtract an inch because my 2-inch square tubing is going to sit on top, and an inch should put it at centered. So while I'm making my cuts, I'm going to go ahead and cut my piece that's actually going to be holding the rim and tire. So measuring my backspace, I get about 7 inches from my mounting surface to the outside edge of my tire. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 inches to that, which will make 9 inches. And I'll put a 9-inch piece here. Actually, I want to give myself about a 1/2 inch of clearance to allow for variance or any issues I might run into. So I'm actually going to go ahead and cut my top piece out at 9.5 inches. Now while I'm making all my measurements and cutting, I'm just going to try to cut out everything else that goes along with this as well. So I plan on doing a 45-degree piece right in here, as well as on this side here to give myself all that support that I need. Now knowing that all this here should be about 16 inches from the top of my tubing to the top of my tire mount here. Now doing the math, I know that it should be about 22.6 inches at the longest point to go from top down here at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out 2 pieces at 22.6 inches long at the longest point, and all the rest of my cuts, and then I'll slap it together and we'll see how it looks. So I did get a little ahead of myself. I got all my pieces cut out. I got this kind of staged up here so that it's perfectly centered, and it is at a 90-degree angle to the bottom piece here. So now I'm just going to go ahead and tack my centerpiece on, kind of assemble everything, get the rest of it tacked on. Hopefully it looks good, hopefully it looks okay, and we'll set it on the Jeep and see how it looks. So I do like the way all of this is sitting. So before I go ahead and tack in my 45 pieces here, I'm going to go ahead and finish welding these inside edges here, because once I cap it off with my support pieces, I won't actually be able to get weld in there. So I'm going to do that right now. That way there's weld in there, and then I can go ahead and add in my support pieces. Now something I did do on this piece here is I went ahead and rounded this edge just a little bit, just because I know it needs to kind of fit right here. I just don't have perfect cuts, so I rounded that. That way it'll fit here just a little bit better. I think this is turning out great. And unfortunately, it's bedtime and I'm not feeling so hot. So this is where I'm going to be done for the night. I'm going to go in and get some rest. So I'm going to try to finish up whatever I can in the garage. It has been raining nonstop. It has been tremendous here in California with all the weather that we've been getting. It's been crazy. So hopefully I can get this thing finished in the garage. I don't know. We'll see. I can always back the Jeep in halfway. Only problem with that is I got to keep moving it in and out to give myself room in here. as well as this is a multiple night project, and when it's time to go get kids, it's time to go get kids, and I don't have time to tear everything apart and bring it in the garage. Also, hopefully my table here doesn't give out. I just have the bumper clamped to the table, and once I put my tire up here, it might want to tip over. If it does, that'll make a great blooper, right? That one's going on TikTok. Anyway, hopefully everything sits okay here. Hopefully my voice holds out. I don't know if you can tell. It's a sick time of year. Anyway, right now what I'm going to focus on is the plate for the tire. Now this one here I picked up from Barnes. It was like 15 bucks maybe. I don't know. It's a whole lot easier just to throw this in an order when I already had a bunch of stuff coming in. And I'm going to use this instead of making my own. One benefit to this is if I ever decide to switch up my axles or anything like that, and I end up with a different bolt pattern for my rim, this will still work. All I got to do is remove the old bolts and add in new bolts in this plate, which works out great. Now these holes are just 1/2 inch holes. They made them so that you could stick a 1/2 inch bolt in there and weld it in place. Or you can just drill them out slightly more and press some studs in here, which is what I am going to do. But first, I'm going to get this thing kind of slapped on there and set up. Now, my Jeep is a 5 on 4.5 bolt pattern. And in the description for this on their website, it actually tells you which holes are that. So I went ahead and marked them. And I'm just going to kind of center my square tubing right here. Slap it up there. There it is. Oh, now I need to check on these studs. And now for some studs. Voila! Oh, the top two went great. The bottom one, my drill bit actually broke mid-drill. So I am going to end up having to weld that bottom one on. If I need to cut it off later, I'll just cut it off later. Anyway, I think that'll work good. Now I just need to throw a tire on there and hope it doesn't knock over my bench. So I've got it clamped down so it can't really swing anywhere, and it is the moment of truth. I'm going to stick my tire up here, and we'll see if it knocks my bench over. I'm realizing how heavy my tire is. We will see. Wish me luck. Didn't fall over. Is it just me, or does that tire look really good on there? Alright, now that my tire portion is figured out, now I just have to figure out what I'm going to do about my jerry can and ammo can mount. I already got plenty of room. I'm extremely excited to push on through with this. So for my ammo can and jerry can mount, I'm going to go ahead and make a box here. If I just build a frame right here, then I can build my mounts separate and have them bolt in place. Now there's a big benefit to having it bolt on instead of weld on, is I can switch it up. I can build other things to fit there. I can mount other things there. That way I'm not just tied to an ammo can and a jerry can there. Maybe 2 jerry cans or whatever else. So I'm thinking my license plate is going to mount right about here underneath everything. So California license plate is 6 inches tall. So what I'm thinking is I can come up 6 inches, and my ammo can is 15 inches tall. So if I can make this 21 inches tall overall, that should put my ammo can right to the top of it, and then I can go ahead and build my frame, and my jerry can will sit just a few inches higher than that because it's about 18 or 19 inches tall. So I'm going to go ahead and get this frame built and do some finish welding and some cleanup on the tire carrier portion, and I will get right back with you. Now I have some more cleanup to do, as well as I want to cap off any open tubing. But before I do that, I'm going to figure out how I want my pins to go. So the next thing I'm going to work on is this pin right here. This pin also came in the kit. It's spring loaded, and it is great because this allows it to lock in place, open, or at a 45, depending on how you want it to be. Now, I haven't 100% decided how exactly I want to do things. I thought about mounting it back here and having this be the permanent closed position. That way, when it opens up, it locks all the way back in this corner kind of at a 45, but that way it'll be a 90 out. The only problem with that is it doesn't allow for further swing. I could also mount a plate right here with all my holes drilled in it. That's just adding more trouble right here, and I don't think it's worth it. Now, I have been putting a lot of thought into this, and I've been thinking if I mount it right here to the front, it will allow access to my grease zerk, which I need. But not only that, it will keep the tension off of the spring. It'll also be a secondary stop. That way when the gate is closed, it can't accidentally open if my latches come undone for any reason. So it'll serve two purposes there, and then I can lift it up when it's open, swing it around, and then it'll lock in place back here. That's what I'm thinking. So now all I need to do is figure out how I want to mount it right here. I did think about being just a little bit offset, give it a little bit of a gap. I'm not sure yet, but this here I think is going to be great. Now these pins, they do come apart. You just unscrew this portion here, and this whole sleeve comes off so you can weld it. You don't got to worry about melting your plastic. It might be tilted just a little bit, but I think that'll work out just great. Now all I got to do is swing my arm open and figure out where I need to drill on the back side so that I can match this at a 90 and possibly even further out. There. There. Sweet. A little bit loose, but I think that will work perfect. So that is pretty much all the time I have for this video. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. As always, don't forget to subscribe. You can check me out on Instagram at It's Project Venture, as well as the Tickety Talk at It's Project Venture. Thanks for watching. So I'm hoping I can get part 4 done for next week and have it be completed. That's if my voice holds out long enough, as well as the weather. Right now, the wind has been blowing horrendously, so if it's not the rain, it's the wind. I'm just doing the best I can. Also, don't forget to check out one of those videos. I don't know, they're on the screen.